The empress said twin princesses bring great misfortune, so after my sister and I came of age, one would be a princess and the other a servant. My sister, with tears in her eyes, clung to the empress's legs and pleaded. The empress, feeling sorry for her as the younger daughter, ordered me to yield. From then on, my sister became the esteemed Princess Suaning, while I became the servant Chongning in the cold palace. My sister admired the young prime minister and showed him every kindness. But he disliked the powerful and noble, and instead grew closer to a servant like me. When the Xiongnu invaded, my sister, in the prime of her youth, was forced into a political marriage, wed to a Khan decades older than her, enduring endless humiliation in a foreign land. Meanwhile, I married into the prime minister's household, becoming the envied wife of the prime minister. While I was pregnant and awaiting childbirth, my sister, who had secretly returned, used a single knife to take my life and that of my unborn child. When I opened my eyes again, we had been reborn on the day we were taken back to the palace. This time, my sister was eager to rush to the cold palace to become a servant. I couldn't help but laugh. Why would anyone choose to be a servant instead of a princess? Don't blame your mother. You too. Twin princesses are inherently inauspicious. It was already difficult for your mother to secretly raise you both to adulthood. Now, one of you sisters must ultimately make a sacrifice. Mother wiped away tears in front of my sister and me, asking us sisters to make the final choice. When my sister and I were born, Mother told the outside world that she had only given birth to one princess, who had been raised in a temple in the outskirts due to poor health. Now, doubts are gradually rising in the palace, and the princess in the temple must return to the palace. You two sisters, one can be a princess enjoying wealth and honor, while the other can only be a lowly maid in the cold palace. As soon as Mother finished speaking, my younger sister stepped forward and volunteered. Mother, let my elder sister be the princess. I am willing to be a servant, silently guarding my sister and mother. Hearing this, I understood. It turns out I am not the only one who has been reborn. My dear sister, she has been reborn too. The Queen Mother was startled. Her younger sister had always been delicate and precious. So how could she be willing to become a palace maid? She asked uncertainly. Sui Ning, are you truly willing? My younger sister nodded eagerly, looking at me and saying, Sui Ning is willing to let my sister be the princess of Great Xia. My sister is gentle and slow to react, and I fear she might be bullied if she becomes a palace maid. The Queen Mother was deeply moved and held her tightly. My Sui Ning is truly a sensible and understanding child. Chongning, why don't you thank your sister quickly? In the future, when you become a princess, you must take good care of her in the palace behind the scenes. Thank my sister. I couldn't help but laugh. I could see the eager and excited expression on my sister's face clearly. She should be the one thanking me for giving up this servant identity to her. Before we parted, my sister couldn't hide her smugness and whispered to me, Sister, this time you can just be the Great Xia princess, while She smiled without saying a word. I nodded happily. Don't worry, sister, I will definitely be a good princess. My sister has lived a life of luxury since childhood and would never be willing to be a mere servant. The reason she didn't want to be a princess was actually because she was afraid in her heart. In her previous life, when our mother asked us to choose our identities, my younger sister threw herself at our mother's feet, hugging her leg with tears in her eyes. Crying that she didn't want to be a servant, she said to me, Elder sister Chongning, I've always given you the best things since we were little. This time, please let your younger sister have her way. Moved by her tears, our mother decided to let my younger sister be the princess. Mother said, Chongning, you are the elder sister, you should give way to her. I knew I had no other choice, so I agreed to them. From then on, the only princess of Great Xia, Princess Suaning, returned to the palace with great favor. While in the neglected cold palace, there was an unnamed little palace maid. On the day my sister returned to the palace, the common people lined the streets to welcome her, flowers covered the ground, and the court officials collectively bowed to her, making it an extremely glorious scene. My sister thought her good days had finally begun. But she never expected that the palace's eagerness for a princess was because the Great Xia army had suffered several consecutive defeats beyond the frontier, losing several cities. There was an urgent need for a princess to marry into the Xiongnu to resolve the conflict, and my sister, who had just returned to the palace, was the Great Shia's only legitimate eldest princess. Not long after, the emperor issued an imperial decree to send my sister beyond the frontier to marry the Xiongnu Khan. The Khan is now over 50 years old, with a large number of wives and concubines, and his youngest child is about the same age as my sister. My sister is unwilling to marry, as she already has someone in her heart, Xu Yuan, the youngest prime minister of the Great Xia dynasty. She fell in love with Xu Yuan at first sight, but he, with his proud and unyielding nature, dislikes associating with the powerful and influential. He never accepted the gifts my sister sent him multiple times and even avoided her whenever possible. My sister is deeply frustrated, and the disappointment of her marriage prospects has left her feeling despondent. While I was supposed to be suffering in the palace, I actually lived a carefree and happy life because I had little presents. While secretly picking flowers outside the cold palace, I encountered Xu Wan. I handed him the most beautiful cherry blossom branch and reminded him not to let it slip. Xu Wan asked for my name, but I shook my head and said I had no name or surname. When we met again, Xu Yuan gave me a painting. I opened it to find a picture of a palace maid picking flowers. I pointed at the figure in the painting and said joyfully, "She looks just like me." Xu Yuan nodded. "She is you. Now, may I know your name?" I wrote the character Ning in his palm. My sister is a princess, so I can no longer use Ning as my name, but when facing Xu Yuan, I still want to tell him the truth. Rumors in the streets say that the young Prime Minister Xu Yuan already has a woman he admires, and in his sleep, he once called out the name Ning. My sister was overjoyed. Thinking that Xu Yuan had been moved by her deep affection, she even wanted to ask our father, the emperor, for an edict, claiming that she and Xu Yuan were in love and destined to be together. She ordered someone to secretly steal the portrait he had painted of Miss Ning from the Prime Minister's residence. Upon opening it, she was initially delighted, but soon after, she flew into a rage, because the portrait of Miss Ning, though somewhat resembling her, was dressed in the attire of a palace maid. My sister was furious. She came to my humble dwelling and smashed all my belongings, pointing at my nose and shouting, "How dare a lowly palace maid like you think of marrying Prime Minister Xu?" Yet I not only married him, but did so in grand style. The day Xu Wan married me was also the day my sister was sent far away to the frontier. She watched as I was celebrated by thousands with a grand wedding procession, while she could only bid a tearful farewell to the empress and board the carriage bound for the frontier. After my sister married the Khan, her life became very difficult. A foreign princess sent as a peace offering, young and lacking any notable skills, she endured endless humiliation in the land of the Xiongnu. Even the most ordinary Xiongnu soldiers dared to sneak into her tent. Unable to bear the disgrace, my sister secretly returned to the capital, only to discover that I was pregnant with Xu Yuan's child. Xu Yuan and I are deeply in love and happy, and having a child will only make our lives more perfect and fulfilling. My sister, driven to madness by rage, lurked outside the Prime Minister's residence. As I stepped out, she suddenly appeared and stabbed me in the stomach. Both my child and I died at her hands. However, we were reborn together, returning to the day when we had to choose our identities. This time, my sister no longer wants to be the princess, she wants to steal my life. But she doesn't know that becoming the only princess of Great Xia has been my lifelong wish. The Empress Mother dressed me in a magnificent palace gown and sighed, saying, "Chongning, since you have taken on the role of princess, you must bear the responsibilities that come with it. Not only must you be obedient, but from now on, you must also take extra care of your sister in the palace." I've long realized that, in both my past life and this one, the Empress Mother has always favored my sister. I asked, "Mother, deep down, you wish for my sister to be the princess, don't you?" Mother was taken aback, then explained, "When you were born, Suaning was frail and tiny. It seems you took her share of nutrients while in my womb. She has a gentle nature and a weak constitution. As her elder sister, shouldn't you give in to her more? A gentle nature and a weak constitution. When my sister stabbed me and the child in my womb with a knife, her hand was anything but gentle, and her strength was far from weak." I smiled and said to the Empress, "Twins are not inherently divided into older and younger sisters. Her weakness is not a reason for me to yield to her. Survival of the fittest, elimination of the weak, that is the law of the world. The Empress looked at me with immense surprise. Changning, how could you have such thoughts? I patted her shoulder. Empress, I not only think this way, but I will also act accordingly. If the duty of a princess is merely to offer herself in marriage for peace when the nation suffers defeat, then I would rather be a servant in the cold palace. Being a princess is no easy task. I started from scratch, learning all the court etiquette. My back was constantly tapped by the teaching matron, and my neck ached from practicing balancing a vase on my head. During the day, I studied etiquette and practiced eloquence, and every night, I stayed up late reading by lamplight. I read military strategies and ancient texts, revisiting books I had read in my past life and making sure to thoroughly study those I hadn't had the chance to see before. To be a princess, one must not only have an external status but also possess inner cultivation. In her previous life, my sister couldn't endure this hardship and avoided these lessons by acting spoiled with our mother. As a result, she later made mistakes in palace etiquette, drawing ridicule from other consorts and leaving a poor impression on our father. On the day I returned to the palace, the fanfare was not as grand as it had been for my sister in her previous life. It was even silent. My mother said, Changning, you are too proud and too strong-willed. I must temper your sharp edges. I didn't have much of a reaction to this. After all, my mother's favoritism wasn't a new thing. I had long grown accustomed to it. As the legitimate eldest princess, I returned to the palace quietly, and many people didn't even know that the princess who had been raised in the temple had come back. My father only summoned me on the first day of my return. Seeing that my mother wasn't very concerned about me, he paid even less attention to me. Meanwhile, my sister, who was working as a maid in the cold palace, was living a life as smooth as a fish in water. The Empress mother had given her a considerable amount of silver in private. Even the inner lining of the palace maid's uniform she wore was personally sewn by the Empress mother using silk, all out of fear that her sister's skin might become rough. The cold palace currently had no master, and the other palace maids were all carefully selected by the Empress mother, good-tempered but foolish individuals. My sister lived freely and unrestrainedly in the cold palace, hoping only to encounter Shu Wan again and create a beautiful tale of a palace maid and a prime minister. Soon, the day arrived when I had first met Shu Wan in my previous life. That day, my sister even specially wrote a letter inviting me to see the cherry blossoms outside the cold palace. I stood not far away and watched with my own eyes as my sister climbed the cherry blossom tree, broke off the largest branch, and handed it to Shu Yuan. One was an elegant and otherworldly young prime minister, the other a smiling, flower-like young maid. At first glance, they truly seemed well matched. The sister in the tree also saw me. She deliberately pretended to lose her balance, and Shu Yuan below quickly spread his arms, ready to catch her. The sister didn't fall. Instead, she shot me a provocative look. She was telling me that everything that belonged to me in my previous life would belong to her in this one. I clenched my fists and prepared to step forward, but my mother suddenly appeared and grabbed me. Mother scolded me. Changning, how could you appear here? If anyone sees how similar you and Suaning look, you'll both be finished. I remained silent. Mother noticed Suaning and Shu Wan in the distance and changed her tone, smiling as she said, Look. Suaning and that Minister Shu really do seem like a perfect match. Mother thought of something and instructed me. The spring banquet is in a few days. When Minister Shu enters the palace, Changning, you must cover your face with a veil so he doesn't see it. I couldn't help but ask, why? I am Shu Yuan's wife. Yet because of Suaning, I cannot even show my true face, Mother said. Just because your sister likes him, and he seems to like your sister too, they are in love, and you have already gained the position of princess. For the sake of your sister's great marriage, what does it matter if you cover your face? Perhaps realizing her tone was too harsh, Mother patted my shoulder. Changning, having you cover your face is also for your own good. If the matter of the twin princesses is exposed, both you and Suaning will be in danger. Besides, you cannot let Suaning stay in the cold palace for a lifetime, can you? Helping her marry into the prime minister's household smoothly would be a good thing for you as well. Good thing. I loosened my clenched fist, pretending to accept her instructions. Mother, Changning understands. On the day of the spring banquet, I will definitely properly cover my face for my sister. At the spring banquet, I met Shu Yuan, in my previous life. We were husband and wife, but this time we met as strangers. I did not listen to my mother's words, which made her very angry. At the spring banquet, with all the officials gathered, if I were to cover my face with a veil, it would surely draw attention from others. If my father were to question it, I would be the one to suffer. This kind of idea that harms me and benefits her must have been suggested by my sister, and my mother has always listened to my sister. I not only did not cover my face, but instead dressed up meticulously, which made the Empress so angry her face turned green. Actually, I am not afraid that Shu Yuan might notice something amiss, because I know that he simply cannot remember the faces of people he does not care about. Shu Yuan grew up in a poor family, living a frugal and simple life, and even after becoming the Prime Minister, he has not changed his nature. The war on the frontier is intense, yet the spring banquet in the palace is incredibly extravagant. Shu Yuan was originally unwilling to attend this banquet, and he looked down upon us nobles who only cared about immediate pleasures. I wanted to strike up a conversation with him, but he didn't even spare me a glance. Helpless, I had no choice but to seek him out personally after the banquet. Prime Minister Shu, please wait, I called out to Shu Yuan, who was walking hurriedly ahead. He turned around, saw it was me, thought for a long time in his mind, and finally remembered who I was. Your subject. Shu Yuan, pays respects to Princess Changning. I instinctively wanted to help him up, but Shu Yuan took a step back, widening the distance between us. He showed great wariness toward my sudden kindness. May I ask why the princess has called for me? The Xiongnu. I had just started speaking when an unfamiliar young eunuch hurried over to Shu Yuan and said anxiously, "Just now, someone handed me a letter and insisted that I deliver it to you, Prime Minister. They said it was a matter of extreme urgency. I didn't dare delay, so I rushed to bring it to you." Shu Yuan glanced at me, took the letter, and opened it. After quickly scanning it, he bowed and excused himself. "Indeed, it is a matter of utmost urgency. I humbly request your highness to allow me to take my leave first." It was only then that the young eunuch beside him realized that I was the newly returned Princess Changning. Before I could respond, Shu Yuan had already turned and left. While the young eunuch knelt on the ground, terrified out of his wits, "I have offended your highness and interrupted your conversation with the Prime Minister. I deserve to die 1,000 deaths. Forget it. I had no intention of making things difficult for a eunuch." After a moment's thought, I asked, "Who told you to deliver the letter to the Prime Minister?" I was just about to say a few words to Shu Yuan when the letter arrived. The timing was just too precise. Before the young eunuch could answer, someone emerged from the shadows of the trees behind him. It was me. My veiled sister smiled, her lips unable to suppress a hint of smugness. After everyone around had withdrawn, my sister removed the veil from her face. "I can see that you truly wish to rekindle your relationship with the Prime Minister. What a pity, though that connection no longer belongs to you." I remained expressionless. "What did you write in the letter you gave him?" My sister smiled faintly. "Actually, it was nothing much. I simply told him that the cherry blossom tree outside the cold palace, where we pledged our love, is on the verge of dying, and I asked him to go take a look." My sister feigned surprise and exclaimed, "Oh, I almost forgot. In our past life, you and he also fell in love under the cherry blossoms. Sister, now that the one admiring the flowers with him is me, you shouldn't be angry, right?" I let out a cold snort and didn't respond. My sister grew even more smug. "You tried to talk to him a few more times using your status as a princess, but it couldn't compare to a simple letter from me. Sister, you know Shu Yuan so well, you should know he doesn't like people like you, the privileged ones. As for me, even though I'm just a lowly palace maid, we get along very well. He can even recognize my handwriting now. Sister, I know you still want to marry him in this lifetime, but with me here, I'm afraid you're just daydreaming." After saying that, my sister arrogantly left, eager to go and save the withered cherry blossom tree with Shu Yuan. I shook my head. Did she really think a few cherry blossoms could win Shu Yuan's heart? I didn't rely on those flowers and plants to make him fall in love with me. Not long after, bad news arrived from the border. The Kui family army, led by the Grand General who protects the nation, was defeated by the Xiongnu, losing 2 border cities. The entire court was shocked and at a loss. And panic spread both inside and outside the palace. My father, the emperor, has always been mediocre and incompetent, unable to come up with any good ideas. The court officials were divided into two factions, one advocating for war and the other for peace. Someone suggested, "Why not send a princess to marry for peace? I think the newly returned Princess Changning would be a good choice. She was raised outside the palace since childhood, so her bond with the emperor and empress isn't that deep. Yet her status is noble. Marrying off the eldest legitimate princess would both demonstrate our sincerity and help stabilize the situation." The emperor was tempted, compared to a series of losing battles and the loss of one city after another. Marrying off this daughter, with whom he had little emotional connection, seemed like the best option. I had already heard the rumors from the court, and my sister, far away in the cold palace, even sent me a letter through someone. "Dear sister, just marry the Khan peacefully. He has many adult men in his household, and you'll have to serve them one by one. I know that after the Kui family army suffers 3 defeats, my father will order me to go for a marriage alliance. I must change my own fate before the Kui family army is completely defeated." So the next day, I went alone to the imperial study. The eunuch said that the Grand Secretary and the Emperor were inside discussing important matters, and no one else was allowed to disturb them. I rushed in without a second thought. As expected, Father was displeased, frowning and scolding me. "This is no place for you, get out." But I showed no fear. "Father, I came here to discuss border affairs. After I've had my say, you can send me away." The Grand Academician nearby stroked his beard, eyes closed, and said, "What wise counsel does the princess have to offer?" I said with unwavering confidence, "I believe there is still room for maneuver in the battle against the Xiongnu." The Grand Scholar raised his eyebrows and looked at me directly. "How so?" I presented the argument I had long prepared. "Our great Shia's generals and soldiers are no less capable than the Xiongnu, but the previous battle has left us severely weakened. If we continue to fight now, the morale of the army will be unstable, which will inevitably lead to even worse consequences. The urgent tasks at hand are, first, to stabilize the army's morale, and second, to buy time, allowing our forces to regroup, reorganize, and regain their strength." The Grand Scholar snorted coldly. "Your Highness speaks lightly. But how do you propose to stabilize the army's morale, and how do you plan to delay the Xiongnu?" I bowed to the emperor and said, "Your daughter, Changning, requests to go to the borderlands, firstly, to boost the morale of the troops, and secondly, to engage in a feigned negotiation with the Khan of the Xiongnu, buying more time for our soldiers." After I finished speaking, the imperial study fell into silence. I simply unfolded the border map I had brought with me, pointing to the marked traces on it, and said, "The cities lost by the Kui family's army this time are all strategically advantageous and difficult to attack. In theory, they should be impregnable. Yet the Xiongnu have taken 3 in a row. This indicates that there must be a traitor within the army. The Kui family's army is not weak in combat strength. Rather, there is a traitor among them. The urgent task now is not to send provisions but to root out the traitor." The Grand Scholar saw the various marks I had made on the map and asked one by one what they meant. I answered fluently, not only explaining the border terrain clearly but also combining it with military strategy to outline the planned marching routes for the future. He gave me a deep look, personally poured a cup of tea, and handed it to me. "Princess Changning is both brave and resourceful, a blessing for our great Xia." He looked at the emperor and said, "I believe what the princess said is absolutely right." My father, who had always been indecisive, immediately made a decision upon hearing him say that. "Then let's do as Changning says. How could the soldiers of Great Xia lose to the Xiongnu barbarians? I don't want to marry the Xiongnu Khan, and I don't want the people of Great Xia to live under the shadow of the Xiongnu for decades." In my past life, although I was just a lowly palace maid, I paid close attention to court affairs and border news, knowing them like the back of my hand. Shua Yuan and I would often discuss current affairs under the cherry blossom tree, and he would often light up with admiration for my bold opinions and novel ideas. What Shu Wan truly loved was never the palace maid who broke off a branch of cherry blossoms for him under the tree. What he loved was a soul that was intelligent and radiant. Unfortunately, my sister never understood this. On the day we set out for the border, I was surprised to find that Shu Wan was among the traveling party. I had assumed he was there on orders and would treat me with the same indifference as before. I never expected that he would come to talk to me just as we set off. His voice came from outside, through the carriage curtain. The teacher said that this matter was planned entirely by the princess. I wonder why the princess had such a bold idea. The teacher he mentioned was none other than the Grand Academician, a minister who had served 3 dynasties. I lifted the curtain and saw Shuai Yuan's sparkling eyes. Just like in my previous life, his eyes would shine brightly when he was excited. I smiled and said, as a princess, receiving the support of the people, I naturally should also play my part. Does the Prime Minister think that people like us can only ever be useless burdens? I dare not, I, your humble servant. I pulled down the curtain to show that I didn't want to talk to him any further, who told him to run off after reading the letter at the palace banquet. Now I'm letting him taste the bitterness of being shut out. I had truly underestimated Shuai Yuan's thick skin. Although I acted very coldly, whenever he had time, he would still stick to me like glue, wanting to discuss border affairs with me. We talked happily, and the more we chatted, the more we felt a deep spiritual connection. Shuai Yuan was so excited that he slapped his thigh repeatedly. If all the nobles and aristocrats in the world were as courageous, resourceful, and righteous as the princess, a golden age would be right before our eyes. His words made me blush, and I waved my hands repeatedly in response. In truth, strategy was only one aspect. The most important thing was that I had lived once before, and I knew who the traitor within the Kui family's army was. So, after arriving at the border, I immediately used swift and decisive measures to expose the traitor. The Guardian General was initially very skeptical of my abilities as a delicate princess from the capital, but when I presented all the evidence and witnesses before him, he was completely convinced. Princess, you are truly amazing. I then sent a negotiation invitation to the Xiongnu Khan in the name of a traitor, stating that I, a princess unloved by both my father and mother, was willing to cooperate with the Khan to help him capture more cities of the Great Shia. The greedy Khan was tempted and arranged to meet me alone outside the city. On the day I was going to keep the appointment, Shuai Yuan was even more nervous than I was, insisting on accompanying me. The plan was originally going very smoothly. I had gained the Khan's trust, buying more time for the Kui family's army to rest and regroup for another battle. But just as I stepped out of the tent, an unknown faction fired a cold arrow. At the critical moment, someone stepped in to block the arrow for me. It was Shuai Yuan, but his identity being exposed also alerted the Khan. How could the Prime Minister of the Shia dynasty be here? Princess, you're playing me. I quickly pulled Shuai Yuan onto the horse, fleeing through a rain of arrows all the way. The horseback riding skills I practiced since childhood came in handy at this moment. Shuai Yuan lay on my back, breathing weakly as he said, I am incompetent. I have ruined your highness's brilliant plan. He did indeed ruin my plan, but who could blame him? Since he is Shuai Yuan, I'll endure it. The scheme failed, and victory could only be decided on the battlefield. The Xiongnu came with overwhelming force, but our side did not show any weakness. During the 4 months of arduous fighting, I remained on the front lines, never retreating for a single day. I ate and lived with the Kui family's army, and discussed military affairs together with the generals and soldiers. Whether to retreat or advance ultimately became my decision, all because they trusted and believed in me, and I, relying on the memories of my past life and the strategies of 2 lifetimes, made all the right decisions. The Xiongnu suffered defeat after defeat, retreating again and again. Finally, we won this hard-fought battle. On the day the Xiongnu retreated, the military camp was as lively as a boiling cauldron of oil. The soldiers shouted my name, wanting to toss me into the air in celebration. After spending this time together, they no longer saw me as a princess. At the critical moment, someone raised an objection. It was Shuai Yuan, who had just emerged from the tent. Frowning, he scolded the crowd. How dare you? The princess is noble and precious. How could you? The Guardian General laughed at him. Prime Minister Shu, didn't you used to hate these distinctions of rank the most? Why is it that when it comes to the princess, you're saying such things now? Shuai Yuan's cheeks flushed red, unsure of how to argue back. In the end, he could only look at me with a pleading gaze. He pointed to the long-healed scar on his back and said with a pitiful tone, "Changning, the wound on my shoulder is aching again." The people around them erupted into knowing laughter. How could this be the aloof and cold Prime Minister who seemed detached from worldly affairs? This was clearly a living, breathing green tea Prime Minister. I returned to the capital with the Kui family army, and the moment we entered the city, countless flowers and fresh fruits rained down from above. The Guardian General had wanted to lavish praise on my contributions in the military report, but I stopped him. The people cheered, shouting my name. Believing I was a blessed princess who brought good fortune to the Kui family army, upon returning to the palace, my father was so overjoyed that he took my hand, eager to have a detailed conversation with me. He said with a smile, "My son Changning is truly blessed with great fortune." As soon as he went to the front lines, he turned the tide of the battle. How fortunate, how fortunate. You have accomplished a great feat this time. Is there anything you desire? Tell me, and I will grant it all. I replied, "This is my duty as your child. I dare not ask for any reward." The emperor then asked Shu Yuan, "And what about Prime Minister Shu, having achieved such merit? What reward do you desire?" Shu Yuan lifted the hem of his robe and knelt down, prostrating himself. "I do have a request, but I am unsure if I should ask." "Never mind, I have not yet sought her opinion, so I shall refrain from asking for now." With him saying that, everyone naturally understood. The emperor even laughed heartily and said, "Prime Minister Shu has served the country with utmost dedication. Even if he wished to marry a goddess from the heavens, I would grant it." Shu Yuan's cheeks flushed slightly as he looked at me and said, "I don't want any celestial goddess from the heavens, I only want her." "Changning, you stop right there." Outside the palace, my sister stopped me with an imposing air. She said, "I underestimated you. You have such great abilities. But let me tell you, I am determined to marry Shu Yuan." I was slightly surprised. "Did he ask father for your hand? You seem so certain." My sister's face turned pale. She certainly knew that Shu Yuan wanted to marry me. "Did you think I would just sit idly by these past few months while you were away? Let me tell you, I've already had my mother speak with the Shu family's matriarch. They've agreed to grant me the title of County Princess. And I will marry into the Shu family with all the glory and honor I deserve. Shu Yuan is a filial son. He will definitely listen to his mother. In the end, Her Majesty still favors her. Even a palace made from the cold palace can be granted the title of a county princess." My sister looked at me, her gaze sharp as needles. "As for you, you are now a renowned princess, and he is the prime minister, second only to the king. Do you think father would marry you off to Shu Yuan? Even if he were willing, Shu Yuan would surely face suspicion due to his high status, and he would let go." I shook my head and told my sister, "No, he won't let go, just wait and see." My sister gritted her teeth in anger, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Even if he doesn't want to let go, I'll force him to." To everyone's surprise, Shu Yuan not only asked the king to arrange a marriage between him and me but also voluntarily resigned from his position as prime minister. He said, "I am willing to give up everything, just to be Princess Changning's consort." Such dedication and sacrifice truly stunned everyone. The emperor had once given his word, promising that even if he sought to marry a goddess, it would be granted. Coupled with the Grand Academician acting as our matchmaker, this marriage was set in stone. The emperor asked me, "Changning, what about you? Are you willing?" I replied, "Someone has been pleading with me for days, so I suppose I'll reluctantly agree." Without even looking back, I knew Shu Yuan must be so happy that his tail was practically wagging in the wind. Just as my father was about to bestow a marriage between me and Shu Yuan, my sister burst in. She shouted, "They cannot marry, because I am also a princess. If you're going to arrange a marriage, do it for both of us. If we're going to die, let us die together." Just as I had anticipated, she still came, with the determination to perish together with me. Since she can't marry Shu Yuan, then I won't be allowed to marry him either. The queen was shocked to see her younger sister rushing in. The emperor frowned and was about to have the younger sister seized, but the queen quickly shielded her. "Your Majesty, she is not lying. She is also your child with me. Back then, I gave birth to twin princesses." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire hall erupted in an uproar, for everyone knew of the state preceptor's ominous prophecy regarding the twin princesses. The Queen Mother was forced to reveal the whole truth, and my younger sister, looking at our father, wept as if drenched by a spring rain. Father, my sister and I are born of the same mother, both your children. Why is it that she gets to be the princess of Great Shia, while I must remain a nameless servant girl in obscurity? If twin births are indeed inauspicious, then my sister and I should share the consequences together. We rise and fall as one. My sister's face twisted with malice, her gaze upon me as venomous as a serpent's. I understand, she wants me to fall from my high position and join her in the mud. The Empress will pull her out of the mud, but the only one truly sinking will be me. The Emperor remained silent, and no one could guess his thoughts. After a moment of contemplation, the Empress smoothed things over. Actually, the idea that twin princesses bring great misfortune was just a casual remark made by the state preceptor many years ago. Now it seems that Changning has brought good fortune to the soldiers on the frontier, so she likely isn't an ill omen. In my opinion, why not restore Suaning's status as a princess? The two of them marrying Minister Shu together would make for a wonderful story. Hearing this, Shu Yuan's face turned ashen, and he repeatedly waved his hands and shook his head. No, no. This absolutely won't do, Your Majesty. I know you convinced my mother earlier, but marriage is no trivial matter. My heart belongs only to Princess Changning. I implore you to reconsider. Faced with Shu Yuan's resistance, his younger sister shouted excitedly, Shu Yuan, how dare you say you've never had feelings for me? Remember when we saved that cherry blossom tree outside the Cold Palace? Shu Yuan shook his head with utmost seriousness. No, I haven't. As for that cherry blossom tree, I could tell long ago that you were the one who poisoned it. I couldn't bear to see such a fine century-old tree die because of me, so I had to. My sister was as if struck by lightning, collapsing to the ground, and I, for the first time, looked my sister directly in the eye. Sui Ning, the world is not as simple as you think. Good, excellent. In that case, Father, why don't we just kill my sister? My sister's gaze toward me was filled with venomous fury. She was determined to drag someone down with her even in death. Your Majesty, Shu Yuan was even more anxious than I was, kneeling and kowtowing. Princess Changning has done nothing wrong and has even contributed. How could she deserve death? My sister, Suaning, shouted. What contribution has she made? She was just putting on a show at the front lines. How can that be called a contribution? Perhaps without her, the war would have been won even faster. The Empress tightly held my trembling sister's body. My child, say no more, Your Majesty. Both are your own flesh and blood. I beg Your Majesty to show mercy. Many present knelt and kowtowed for me, shouting in unison, we beg Your Majesty to forgive Princess Changning, while my mother's supporters cried out, we beg Your Majesty to forgive both princesses. My father looked at me. Changning, do you have anything to say? I smiled faintly, as Princess Changning. I have a clear conscience in all my actions. Since my rebirth, everything I have done has been not only to change my own fate but also to alter the destiny of the Great Shia. I cannot bear to witness the flames of war raging across the land, the smoke of battle rising from every corner of the frontier, and the people displaced and homeless. I want to be a princess, but not one who can only be sent away for a political marriage. Finally, everyone awaited the Emperor's judgment. He pondered for a long time before slowly saying, the matter of twin princesses being inauspicious is indeed true. Although the state preceptor is no longer with us, his words must still be heeded. Therefore, I hereby demote you to a commoner. Everyone looked up and saw that the Emperor was pointing at the younger sister, who was hiding behind the Empress. Both the younger sister and the Empress were stunned. Sui Ning widened her eyes in disbelief. Father, why am I the only one being demoted? What about her? What about Changning? The Empress quickly covered her mouth to stop her from continuing, but the Empress was equally astonished. Your Majesty, how can you be so biased toward Changning? Biased? Hearing Mother say that, I almost wanted to laugh. The one who has always been the most biased is clearly herself. Yet now she turns the tables. She has protected Suaning for over a decade, and now that Father finally protects me just once, she thinks he is being unfair. Father clapped his hands. Someone, bring all the battle reports and military dispatches from the border. The military reports, piled up like small mountains, were laid out in a row before everyone. After reading just a few scrolls, one would notice that the name appearing most frequently was Princess Changning. The emperor said thoughtfully, in every battle report submitted by the Guardian General, Changning's name is always mentioned. The court astrologer's prophecy of the twins' inauspicious fate referred to one being extremely fortunate and the other extremely unfortunate. Judging by the current situation, Changning must be the fortunate one among the twins. As for you, Suaning, the emperor stared at her for a moment, you may also go to the frontier. As long as you achieve the same accomplishments as your elder sister, I will welcome you back to the palace, otherwise, I will only acknowledge Changning as my daughter. My sister has gone mad, she couldn't accept it, couldn't bear the feeling of being worlds apart from me, one in the heavens, the other in the mud. She kept asking me, why do you always get the best of everything? Why is it always me who suffers? I retorted, when have you ever suffered? Hasn't it always been you snatching my opportunities? The emperor allowed her to spend one day in the palace reuniting with the empress, but she had to leave the palace the next day. That night, a great fire broke out in the empress's palace, and it was my sister who set it herself. The empress was pulled out of the palace by quick-witted palace servants, and she watched helplessly as the fire grew larger and larger. Seeing me arrive, the empress urgently cried out, Changning, go quickly and save your sister. I said calmly, with such a big fire, who could save her? The empress mother roared, she is your sister, how can you stand by and watch her die without lifting a finger? I smiled, if you want to save her, you can go in yourself, I'll keep the others from interfering. The empress mother instantly fell silent. The fire burned all night, and by morning, the queen mother's hair had turned white. She hated me, saying, you are the one who killed Suaning. I shook my head and corrected her, no, it was you who killed my sister. If you hadn't always spoiled her, she wouldn't have developed such a temperament. Mother, you taught me to endure from a young age, allowing my sister to act recklessly, but the laws of this world often favor those who can endure until the end. Mother, you were wrong from the very beginning. After I left that day, the Empress Dowager moved out of the palace and went to the temple where my sister and I grew up, taking up religious practice while keeping her hair. My wedding with Shu Yuan proceeded as scheduled. On our wedding night, I couldn't help but ask him, why did she call you away with just a single letter back then? Shu Yuan held me tightly. Why is my wife still thinking about this? It was my fault. I apologize again. Please spare me, princess. I don't want you to apologize. I want to know what's in your heart. Shu Yuan thought for a moment and said to me, the first time I saw that cherry blossom tree outside the cold palace, I felt it was very special. That tree seemed very important to me. So when I read in the letter that something was wrong with the tree, I immediately went to check on it. Darling, don't be jealous when I say this, but since I was young, I've often dreamed of a woman's figure under a cherry blossom tree. The tree in the cold palace is exactly the same as the one in my dreams. I held his face and made him look at me. I asked him, then take a look, am I the same as the woman in your dream? He nodded with certainty. The more I look, the more you resemble her. Do you know why? Why? Because we are bound by fate across lifetimes. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My husband was fighting on the frontier, and I spent my days in the mansion fasting and praying for him. Yet, he sent a charming young woman back to the mansion day and night, claiming her dancing was enchanting and unmatched. By the time my husband returned victorious, I had eaten over 60 chickens while watching the young woman dance. The young woman paid me no mind, her eyes filled with affection day after day, eagerly awaiting my husband's return to grant her a proper status. I, however, have some reservations. This girl is quite pretty, but her judgment seems a bit off. After my husband returned, he used his military achievements to secure a stage for the girl, crafted from pure gold and adorned with gemstones. He looked at me with a flattering expression, like a big dog trying to win favor. Madam, look. This is a specialty from the western regions that I specially prepared for you, a little girl who can dance. Do you like it? My husband, Jiang Ting, is a renowned handsome man in the capital. But even more famous than his charm is his reputation as a devoted husband. As for me, I am also known in the capital as the wooden princess consort, famous for being unromantic and having a heart as hard as stone. It's not that I'm putting on airs. It's mainly because my husband is constantly pulling off all sorts of outrageous stunts, never doing anything sensible. That year I was 5, he was 8, and I got into an argument with the most favored young master of the Yongle Earl's household. He merely mocked me, saying, "You're so childish. Do you really think buns will fall from the sky?" That very afternoon, Jiang Ting made the Yongle Earl's young master realize that buns could indeed fall from the sky. The little boy, clutching his head and covered in a mess, was chased and pelted with buns for 2 whole streets before he finally ran back home. From then on, the Yongle Earl's household never ate buns again, all because their young master couldn't bear to hear the word bun. That year I was 7, he was 10, and Jiang Ting's eldest brother was selecting a consort. My portrait was also sent up for consideration. Upon learning this, Jiang Ting leaped onto his elder brother's neck and proceeded to unleash a torrent of blows on his head. As a result, even though his elder brother had been on the throne for several years, he still carried the trauma to this day, instinctively shielding his head whenever he saw the two of us. That year, I was 16, he was 19. And I married him as he had wished, but how could a prince of royal blood be content with just one woman? Thus, everyone eagerly prepared to send their eligible daughters to the prince's mansion as concubines. Although this prince is a bit mischievous, his status is still there, and this minor flaw can be completely overlooked. But who would have thought that a prince of such stature would completely disregard his own status, opening his mouth and leaving everyone blushing with embarrassment? Hey Tilda, your daughter is as fierce as Li Kuei. My wife is still the prettier one. Actually, that girl isn't ugly. She just has a healthy complexion. Tut, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you still dare to come out for a blind date. You're far worse than my wife. In truth, the young lady was proficient in poetry, song, embroidery, and household management. It was just that she had never learned martial arts with weapons. TSK. So affected, taking 3 bites to finish a single pastry. My wife can eat 3 in 1 bite. He really dared to boast. What decent person could eat 3 palm-sized pastries in 1 bite? Although the young ladies were drawn to wealth and status, they still had their pride. Now, having been so thoroughly humiliated by Jiang Ting, they all declared that the Prince of Jing and dogs were not welcome in their homes. All of the capital says I am the woman held closest to Prince Jing's heart, yet I am ungrateful, cold-hearted and unfeeling. Even so, Jiang Ting paid no mind to the gossip, simply doting on me day after day. I am not as the world says, I am merely holding back, because I am a transmigrator, who for some reason crossed into this novel. I have a general idea of the novel's content, but only in broad strokes. Because it's a VIP-only novel that requires a subscription to read in full, I can buy a $9.99 outfit without a second thought, and I can eat a $9.99 spicy hot pot just like that. But I really can't bring myself to spend $9.99 on a membership, so I only read the synopsis and the first 30% of the trial content of this novel. The novel is a popular strong female lead story, and I am that strong female lead. My husband, Jiang Ting, is just a supporting character. According to the synopsis, after his death, I will soar to great heights and become the wealthiest woman in the country. I have no idea when exactly Jiang Ting died or what caused his death. How could I bear to watch him die right before my eyes without warning him, after all these years of having him as a living, breathing companion? So I tried to tell him what I knew, but whenever I mentioned the key words, they would be censored, and all Jiang Ting heard was "I love you." I tried writing it down on paper, but in Jiang Ting's eyes, everything I wrote was a love letter. I originally thought Jiang Ting was a dog, but I never expected fate to be even more of a dog. Seeing that the situation was beyond my control, I could only prioritize protecting myself, repeatedly reminding myself that the person before me could leave at any moment, and I must not get too involved. A rebellion broke out in the borderlands. And Jiang Ting, as a prince skilled in leading troops and fighting battles, naturally took up the responsibility of leading the army to quell it. It has already been nearly half a year since he left. During these days, I have kept to myself, eating vegetarian food and praying to Buddha, only asking for the Buddha's protection to keep Jiang Ting safe and sound. That day, I was having my lunch, a plate of green vegetables and tofu, a bowl of rice, and a small bowl of mushroom soup. Jiang Ting's trusted aide, Paulang, returned in a hurry, covered in dust, and with him was a young woman, princess consort. This is Miss Ruofu. His Highness ordered me to rush back to the capital with her and have you make proper arrangements for her. As soon as he finished speaking, the woman standing behind Paulang raised her head and looked at me mockingly. So this is the princess consort. She doesn't look all that impressive. With that, she stood there straight and tall, looking down her nose at everyone. We're all sisters here, so there's no need to stick to formalities. Let's just skip all those tedious rituals and get straight to the point. Although I've been eating vegetarian these past few days, my personal maid, Xiangming, certainly isn't one to be trifled with. She stepped forward and gave Ruofu a resounding slap across the face. Who do you think you are, daring to act like you're on equal footing with our princess? Why don't you take a good look at yourself in the mirror? I was shocked. Breaking Waves was stunned. Xiangming also felt she had spoken out of turn and quickly tried to smooth things over, saying, calling each other sisters, putting aside upbringing. What Xiangming said wasn't actually wrong, however. Miss Ruofu didn't care at all and continued to perform at her usual level. Her eyes were brimming with tears, and her delicate, boneless hands covered her fair, tender face, filled with resentment. You little wretch, how dare you hit me? Do you know it was the prince who arranged for someone to escort me back? Just wait until the prince returns, I'll have him skin you alive. Do you know, the prince adores me so much that once I take the stage, he can't bear to look at anyone else. I asked curiously. What do you do on stage? Fight in a battle, Ruofu said smugly. The princess is truly uncouth. My dancing is renowned throughout the western regions for its grace, naturally. The prince was captivated by my performance. At this point, I became interested. Go on and elaborate, how exactly did he fall? To save his own skin, Paulang hurriedly fled, silently lighting a candle in his heart for his master. News spread quickly in the capital. In the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the entire city knew that the wife-obsessed Prince Jing had rushed a young woman back from the border and had even been enchanted by her. That cold-hearted and unfeeling princess consort had finally been cast aside. Xiangming timidly stepped forward to comfort me. Princess, please calm your anger, I said nonchalantly. I'm not angry, so how can I calm down? While cleaning up the chicken bones scattered all over the table, Xiangming advised. You've already eaten 2 roasted chickens in such a short time. I'm worried you might overeat. I became a vegetarian back then to pray for the Buddha's blessings. Now that I no longer need those blessings, of course, I should eat meat. Online image, contact for removal if infringing. Early the next morning, someone from the palace came to summon me, saying that the emperor wanted me to pack up and hurry into the palace. The emperor was seated at the innermost part of the hall of mental cultivation. As soon as I stepped through the main gate, I was stopped by the eunuch guiding the way. Please stay here, Princess Jing. The emperor requests that you sit right here. With that, he brought over a stool. Even with a door between us, the emperor shouted to me. I heard that Ating sent a woman back by an 800-li express delivery. I think you shouldn't be in a hurry to get angry. Wait until Ating returns, ask him, and then decide whether to be angry or not. I strained my ears for a long time, only hearing at #woman %angry. Ating. I could only shout back, Your Majesty, I can't hear you. How about letting me come in to talk? Absolutely not. Stay right there. Keep a safe distance. I'm afraid Ating might misunderstand. After our heart-wrenching conversation, I largely understood the emperor's meaning. Jiang Ting is a heartless man, and I can be angry, but the soldiers on the front lines are innocent, so my provisions must still be delivered. In the original text, Nan Qinghe was beautiful and kind-hearted, and even more a business genius. While I happened to know a thing or two about it, with this double advantage, I became even more outstanding to the extreme, controlling more than half of the commerce in the entire Great Wind Kingdom. I am also a savvy person, having pledged my loyalty to the emperor early on. He protects my business ventures, and I ensure his military provisions are abundant. The emperor was quite pleased with this arrangement and even bestowed upon me the title of the foremost imperial merchant of Dafeng. However, only the title was made public, and no one knew that I was the one holding it. Even Jiang Ting was unaware. This was also a form of insurance I could provide for Jiang Ting. It seems someone deliberately provided information to Ruofu. who couldn't hold back even for a day and rushed to my courtyard without even eating lunch. Well, Tilda, isn't this the princess who's about to be returned intact? After being married for so long, you haven't even managed to win the prince's heart. It's truly laughable. People should recognize reality. If something isn't meant for you, even if you force it to stay by your side, you won't find happiness. I'm different. If it weren't for the rule that women aren't allowed in the military camp, I would surely be enjoying passionate nights with the prince every day. I wiped the oil from the corner of my mouth. That Ruofu, I think your Huxian dance is quite ordinary. Ruofu immediately puffed up like a pufferfish, feeling as if her professional skills had been insulted. What nonsense are you talking about? The prince loves my dancing the most, especially the Huxian dance. I gently shook my head. I don't believe it, unless you dance another one for me to see. Ruofu immediately started humming a rhythm and began to dance. As I admired Ruofu's dance moves, I continued eating the roast duck. To be fair, Ruofu's dance was really good, and the roast duck today was cooked just right. Seeing me eat with such delight, Ruofu couldn't take it anymore. She put her hands on her hips, her eyes wide as copper bells. I glanced at the half-roast duck left on the plate, feeling a bit reluctant. Good Ruofu, could you dance 2 more times? No, 3 more times. Let me finish this meal. Ruofu grew even angrier, stomping her little feet with tears welling up in her eyes. You're going too far. What do you take me for? I am the one held dear in the prince's heart, yet you treat me like a mere songstress. You wait. When the prince returns, I will report you. I rolled a piece of roast duck in a thin pancake, eating until my mouth was glistening with oil. I think you should just enjoy your current life while you can. When the prince returns, you'll realize that while I may not be a good person, the prince truly is no good either. I'm tired of eating roast chicken, tired of roast duck, tired of braised pork knuckle, tired of roast lamb, and just as I was sharpening my knife to go after the old ox, Jiang Ting returned. This time, he achieved remarkable military success, winning a great and splendid victory. The emperor was overjoyed, eagerly preparing to reward his younger brother generously. Whatever reward you desire, Prince Jing, just name it. Jiang Ting's eyes lit up upon hearing this. Really? You'll give me anything I want? The emperor nodded. Just speak your mind. Jiang Ting drew the long sword he wore at his side. He was the only exception in the entire court, permitted to carry a sword to the morning assembly. Standing in the center of the grand hall, Jiang Ting used his sword to draw a circle on the ground. I want a stage this big, made of pure gold. Make it sturdy, it's for people to dance on. As soon as the long sword was drawn, the necks of all the civil and military officials in the court tightened. As soon as these words were spoken, the officials, big and small, felt their vision darken. Several censors even cried and wailed, threatening to dash themselves against the pillars in the main hall to offer their remonstrance. But Jiang Ting directly knocked them out and dragged them away. The emperor's mouth twitched, and he nodded in agreement. It wasn't that he didn't want to protect his own younger brother, it was just that he couldn't stop him from bringing trouble upon himself. Since that's the case, I grant your request. 7 days from now, I will host a grand banquet in the palace to celebrate Prince Jing's victory. Satisfied, Jiang Ting skipped all the way back to the prince's mansion. As soon as she entered, she rushed straight to my courtyard, calling out, Madam, 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 I'm back Tilda, quick. Look at me, I've lost weight from all the fighting on the battlefield, and also, I'm injured here too. I need you to rub it for me. Before I could throw this guy out, I saw a dark figure swiftly pounce toward Jiang Ting. Your Highness, you've finally returned. Ruofu has been suffering so much these days. I've missed you to death Tilda. Jiang Ting was startled by this sudden disturbance, thinking it was an assassin, and dodged to the side, delivering a kick in the process. With a thud, Ruofu fell to the ground in disbelief. Jiang Ting looked at Ruofu with a scrutinizing gaze. Who are you? How dare you wish for my death? Who gave you the audacity to ambush me? Ruofu hurriedly scrambled to her feet, her face full of confusion. Your Highness, it's me, Ruofu, the one who dances. Ruofu, as she spoke, she endured the pain, hummed a tune, and began to dance with a graceful sway. Jiang Ting took a look, snapped back to reality, and beamed with joy. Oh, so it's you. Excellent, excellent. Keep practicing diligently. and in a few days, you'll also come along to the palace's victory banquet." The news spread like wildfire through every street and alley, with even the elderly and children chattering about it with great interest. That Jing princess has fallen out of favor. Since ancient times, it's always been like this, only the new love gets to laugh, while the old one is left to cry. I just wonder what kind of peerless beauty it must be to make the Prince of Jing bring her into the palace for the victory banquet. During these days of waiting, Ruofu practiced her dance with utmost diligence and dedication. When the day arrived, she stood before me with her head held high, her face full of provocation. As soon as I entered the palace, I saw the circular stage in the very center, dazzling and glaringly bright. Ruofu's tail was practically wagging up to the sky as she quietly sidled up to me and whispered, "See that? That stage is a testament to the prince's favor for me. I advise you not to be too jealous. After all, I am his beloved." I remained dignified and composed, not even sparing her a glance. The banquet began, and as per tradition, the emperor had to sing praises to the meritorious officials. Before I could rudely doze off, the ceremony finally concluded. Then, he introduced the newly appointed monarch of the neighboring country, Hutu, who had submitted to their authority, for everyone to meet. While everyone else bowed in respect, I felt nothing but disdain. A wise man does not stand under a dangerous wall, and here was a ruler of a nation, venturing into another's territory, truly like lighting a lantern in a latrine, asking for trouble or death. The reason for my disdain was that from the moment I entered the hall, this person's gaze had been fixed on me, without any attempt to conceal it. In such a solemn and dignified setting, only Jiang Ting showed no regard, tossing his chopsticks with a clatter at the feet of the Hutu monarch. This action instantly made him the center of attention in the entire hall. With everyone looking at him and waiting for his next move, the emperor's veins throbbed on his forehead as he spoke with a forced smile, trying to smooth things over. "Hey, Ting. What do you think of this stage? Are you satisfied?" Looking at the golden, large round stage, Jiang Ting's expression softened slightly, and she gestured toward Ruofu with a slight tilt of her chin. "Ruofu, go on. Time to dance." Ruofu had long been eager to try out the pure gold stage specially built for her. Upon hearing Jiang Ting's words, she couldn't wait to leap onto the stage, moving her steps lightly and swaying gracefully. Ruofu's dance moves were indeed extraordinary, captivating everyone present. Jiang Ting, however, shook my arm until I shifted my attention to him. "Madam, look, do you like it? This is the dancer in the box I prepared for you." The dancer in the box. Everyone else looked confused, but I understood his meaning the most clearly. When I was young, I still held a longing for the modern era, and in my free time, I loved tinkering with things that imitated the modern style. That time, I was tinkering with a music box. Unfortunately, I didn't understand gears, so I could only make a box that looked the part but lacked the mechanism. Jiang Ting kept asking what it was. I casually told him it was a dancer in a box. If there were gears, once wound up, the dancer would gracefully dance on the stage inside the box, just like Ruofu on the stage. Jiang Ting kept pressing me for details, but I brushed them off casually. Later, I simply put the matter out of my mind. But now, why does my nose feel a bit sore? And my heart feel all tingly and numb? How could feelings not grow over time, especially when he treats me like a precious treasure? Even if my words are tough, my heart has long since surrendered. If possible, I would willingly offer all my assets in exchange for a lifetime with Jiang Ting, but unfortunately, no one has given me a response. Jiang Ting looked around with pride and introduced it proudly. "This is the dancer from the box my wife loves the most. It's just a little figure dancing on the stage inside the box. You haven't heard of it because you lack experience, but my wife knows. My wife knows everything. She is the most remarkable person in the world. Indeed, a dog can't change its habit of eating filth, and the Prince of Jing can't change his habit of doting on his wife." Everyone began to flatter Jiang Ting, praising him as a virtuous husband and an excellent man, which infuriated Ruofu so much that she fainted on the gold-plated stage. Everyone flattered me and Jiang Ting while also teasing Ruofu, who had fainted on the stage. Only one person sneered disdainfully, stood up, and walked straight toward me. The king of Hutu clapped his hands toward me. "The Jing princess is truly amusing indeed. living up to her reputation. I have a business deal I'd like to discuss with the Jing princess. I wonder if the Jing princess would grant me this favor. Everyone looked at each other, discussing what kind of business deal it could be that required speaking with the princess of Jing. The king of Hutu said calmly, "If I'm discussing a business deal, shouldn't I seek out the foremost imperial merchant of Dafeng? Why would I bother with those small-time players?" The noisy hall immediately fell silent, and everyone turned to look at me with expressions of shock and suspicion. Outwardly, I remained composed, but inwardly, my heart sank. How could he have known about this news? At this moment, the great hall was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop, but Jiang Ting broke the silence. He asked in a trembling, uncertain voice, Madam, are you really the #1 imperial merchant of Dafeng?" I pursed my lips but did not turn to look at Jiang Ting, afraid to see the disappointment and blame in his eyes. Indeed, such a significant matter was concealed by someone close to him. He must surely despise me now. I was just about to explain to him when I saw him suddenly stand up, leap to the center of the hall, and burst into laughter. "Haha, as expected of my wife, your actions are truly extraordinary. Let me ask you, whose wife manages their family's business so well that they become the top imperial merchant?" "Oh, of course, I'm not targeting anyone, I'm targeting all of you, you little amateurs, all the ministers, whether married or unmarried, from noble families or common backgrounds, old officials or new favorites, were all left speechless with frustration. Some people make a stunning entrance that captivates everyone, while others manage to offend everyone with their words, like Jiang Ting. Seeing that Jiang Ting was about to trample everyone present into the dust, the emperor quickly intervened. "To be honest with everyone, Princess Jing is indeed the top imperial merchant of Dafeng. It was I who requested the crown princess of Jing to keep it a secret. After all, talent must be protected. But how did the king of Tu come to know about it?" The king of Hutu smiled. "I must ask your majesty to forgive me for not being able to reveal that, but I am indeed sincerely hoping to discuss a business deal with the crown princess of Jing." The emperor, "As long as the crown princess of Jing agrees, you may discuss the business." The king of Hutu, "This matter is not suitable to discuss here. I hope the princess of Jing can step aside and join me in the back hall for a detailed conversation. As for those who are not involved, they may continue with the music and dance here." The emperor twitched the corner of his mouth. "I think it's best not to. If you have something to say, just..." Before he could finish speaking, Jiang Ting interrupted him. He sneered sarcastically. "Why are you so afraid of being seen? Do you have to talk behind people's backs? Go ahead. Are you planning to speak ill of the emperor?" The king of Hutu was left speechless. I patted Jiang Ting's hand, and he immediately turned around, putting on a gentle and kind expression as he softly asked, "What instructions do you have, madam?" I smiled at him, gave his hand a squeeze, and then turned to face the king of Hutu. "Your Majesty, may I have a word in private?" The king of Hutu followed me to the rear hall, shutting the aggrieved Jiang Ting outside the door and dismissing the attendants. "What matter brings the Earth King here?" The king of Hutu glanced around the hall with a shifty-eyed expression, then gleefully made his way straight to the open space in the center of the hall. "I do have something to discuss with you, but I need to follow a procedure. Please be patient for a moment." He gestured with his hand to indicate the size of the venue, looking quite satisfied. Then, the king of Hutu took off his outer robe, removed his crown, leaned against a pillar, stood on tiptoe, and with a seductive gaze and an enchanting posture, he began humming a rhythm and started performing a belly dance right in front of me. This dance lasted for the time it takes an incense stick to burn. Online image. If there is any infringement, please inform for removal. To be honest, the dance moves of the Earth Kingdom's ruler are actually quite skilled, not much worse than Ruofu's, however. That doesn't mean I can understand or approve of this performance. Right now, I just want to turn around and run. Am I really not worthy of meeting someone even slightly normal? Just as I was considering whether to bolt through the door or jump out the window, the Earth Kingdom's ruler finally stopped, panting heavily. "Phew tilde, oh my goodness, let's keep it short, otherwise if I want to chat with you later, I'll have to go through the whole routine again. I know you've transmigrated into a book. And so have I. I'm actually the author. Hey, what's with you? If you have something to say, say it properly. Why resort to violence? If you keep wasting time, your man really won't make it. I spent a while admiring the belly dance, and a while listening to the King of Hutu ramble on. It wasn't until I grew tired of the aesthetic that I finally sorted out the whole story. The Emperor of Hutu is a time traveler, and this time traveler is none other than the author of this book. The reason for the time travel is even more bizarre. He was cursed to death by the resentment of readers because the high-quality male lead of this story, my husband, Jiang Ting, was written to die by the author. Fortunately, the author also obtained a redemption system and was given 3 characters to choose from, any one of which could serve as his identity after traveling through time. Only by changing the male lead's fate and ensuring that the male lead lives a happy and joyful life can he return to his original world. The system was quite magnanimous, telling him that I am a transmigrator and could serve as an ally, so he traveled thousands of miles, racking his brains to come find me, to see if I had any good ideas. I took a moment to digest this information, scratched my head, and stared at him intently. First, answer me 2 questions. Why do you always have to dance? And second, isn't it good to be the local king here? The expression on the face of the King of Hutu was quite vivid, filled with both regret and inner conflict. Wait for me to dance a bit first. After finishing, the King of Hutu was panting heavily. The settings for those 3 characters are all a bit bizarre. The King of Hutu, who dances while talking, the dashing young master who sucks his fingers right after scratching his feet, and the young lady from a noble family who enjoys drinking ink while reading. I expressed that human understanding is limited, but human imagination is boundless. I know there's a saying that this story is purely fictional, but are these settings something a carbon-based life form could come up with? Bouncing, jumping, twisting, and shaking. The Emperor of Hutu was sweating profusely. Well, actually, I originally intended to write properly, but who would have thought that a pie would fall from the sky? I actually have a long-lost wealthy great-uncle, and he had no children, no ties, and no attachments, before he passed away. He left all his property to me, who wouldn't go crazy over that. With that, the King of Hutu teared up. So I beg you, please help me. I absolutely must go back. Whoever wants to dance can dance. I have to go back and inherit my great-grandfather's fortune, which is enough to last 8 lifetimes. To this, I deeply understand. The King of Hutu counted on his fingers. We still have a week to plan. As long as we avoid all the dangers on that day, I'll be considered successful. I sighed softly. If I hadn't met the King of Hutu, wouldn't I have become a widow in 7 days? Listen to me. On that day you went to pray for blessings at Jonan Temple. You were attacked on the way, and Jiang Ting died saving you. I secretly thought. Does that mean as long as I keep Jiang Ting close and stay hidden in the mansion, nothing will happen? After I presented my idea, I received high praise from the King of Hutu. With the plan settled, I didn't want to wait for the King of Hutu to finish his dance, so I prepared to get up and leave, but before I could stand up, the door was pushed open, and even the latch broke into 2 pieces, falling to the ground. The first to rush in was the Yongle Earl's heir, whose momentum sent him sprawling face first. Immediately after, Jiang Ting hurriedly stepped inside. However, when the 2 of them saw the Emperor of Hutu still dancing in the room, their eyes nearly popped out of their heads. Internet image, if there is any infringement, please inform us for removal. Jiang Ting endured and endured, but in the end, she couldn't help asking with a look of disdain, Earth King, what are you doing? The King of Hutu ignored Jiang Ting and instead circled around to approach me, slyly trying to stir up trouble. Princess Jing, I think Prince Jing is really disrespecting you. He knew you were meeting guests, yet he barged in anyway. Ah, I understand, it must be a misunderstanding. It seems the Prince of Jing doesn't trust his consort enough. Indeed, rumors are not to be believed. The so-called restart maniac Prince of Jing in the capital is nothing special after all. Jiang Ting hurriedly waved at me. Madam, don't listen to his nonsense. Trusting you, loving you, saving you, protecting you, I'll give you all of it. Madam, he must be jealous that I could marry you. That's why he's deliberately causing trouble. He looked around, trying to find something to shift the blame, and finally spotted the Yongle Earl's heir, who had just gotten up from the ground at the doorway. Seeing Jiang Ting's fierce, wolf-like gaze, the Yongle Earl's heir desperately winked and waved at him. Jiang Ting playfully blinked back at him, giving him a relieved smile. Turning to me, he said with righteous indignation, "At this point, I won't hide it anymore. It was the Yongle Earl's heir who insisted on barging in. I tried my best to stop him. But I failed. The Yongle Marquis heir, blinded by emotion, is not someone I can stop." I looked at Jiang Ting suspiciously. Emotion? Could it be that the Yongle Marquis heir has feelings for me? But if that were the case, he would have been eliminated by Jiang Ting long ago, right? Then, without changing his expression, Jiang Ting continued, "King of Earth, did you know that in this distant capital, there is a Yongle Marquis heir silently watching over you?" Yongle Marquis heir. The king of Hutu Kingdom was shocked. It is said that the palace guards are tight, but I feel it is like a sieve. In less than the time it takes to eat a meal, everyone in the capital knew that I was the mysterious royal merchant. Ruofu stepped onto the carriage with Jiang Ting and me, and just as she was about to get on, a folding fan was pressed against her forehead. "What are you doing up here?" Ruofu pursed her lips, her face full of grievance. "Your Highness, I am naturally following you back to the mansion." Jiang Ting remained unmoved. "If you're going back to the mansion, just follow the carriage from behind. What are you doing up here?" Ruofu could only trail behind the carriage, weeping and sobbing. I curled the corner of my mouth and tugged at his soft black hair. "Turn around and let me see. Why is my husband unhappy?" Jiang Ting froze completely, suddenly turning his head to look at me, his eyes filled with disbelief. Ever since we met, I had never given him a pleasant expression, let alone called him husband in such a gentle and soft tone. After all, at that time, I was still fantasizing about sealing my heart and locking away love, unwilling to fall for someone who was about to die. But feelings aren't something you can just stop at will. Now I've come to see things more clearly, so I just follow my heart. Jiang Ting, like a wronged big dog, snuggled up to me. "Madam, you have to believe me. I'm good to you not because I want your money. Those who spread rumors are just jealous of me. They only see that you can make money, but they don't see all your other good qualities. Besides, I may be good to you, but you're even better to me." I twirled his hair around my finger and said with a smile, "Clearly, you treat me better." Jiang Ting flushed with excitement upon hearing this. "How could that be? I don't care. My wife is the best in the world. No one can compare. Even my wife's farts are loud and fragrant." I was utterly speechless. Such a glorious feat really didn't need to be broadcast far and wide. Sure enough, after a few seconds of silence, the chaotic street erupted into uproarious laughter. This time, it was my turn to blush crimson. I fanned myself, trying to calm down. Jiang Ting shamelessly leaned in, still completely unaware of his own embarrassment. "Are you hot, my lady? Let your husband blow on you to cool you down." After the palace banquet, Jiang Ting became even busy with the war, and even more so with the matters that needed handling after the battle. Ruofu, who had been trying to block his way for several days without success, couldn't sit still any longer, clenching her handkerchief in frustration. She angrily blocked my doorway. "You call yourself the prince's wife. I think you're just a jealous woman. You keep the prince to yourself every day, not letting him come watch me dance." I didn't even give her a proper glance, for the accounts I was currently calculating were all major ones involving provisions for armies of millions. "You clearly know everything, so why are you still making unreasonable demands?" Ruofu twisted her handkerchief even tighter. It was precisely because she knew everything that she couldn't accept it. "You have family background and wealth, so why can't you let me have a little of a man's affection?" I put down the pen in my hand, my expression sharp. "You think you're worthy?" Ruofu was so frightened by my imposing manner that she took several steps back, unable to utter a word. In her daze, she nearly tripped over the threshold. Xiangming hurried in. "Your Highness, Prince Tu has arrived. He says he has important matters to discuss with you." I nodded. "Take him to the front hall. I'll be right there." After changing my clothes, I walked toward the front hall, with Xiangming following behind me and whispering, "Princess, have you finally had a change of heart?" I glanced at the girl. "It's just that you used to always give the prince the cold shoulder and ignore him, but now you actually hold the prince dear to your heart, and besides, I always feel like your spirit and energy are different from before." I curled the corner of my mouth. What a clever girl, to have noticed such a subtle change. He patted her on the shoulder. "Go to Shanji and order a set of pigeon banquet for me. To nourish the prince, Xiangming immediately perked up, her eyes fixed on me like searchlights. Princess, why do you need to nourish the prince? Is it because you've been too demanding? Princess, I'm afraid it's more than that, in such cases. Pigeon won't be enough. Let me recommend you comia stewed with pork kidney, seahorse stewed with lamb, curculigo and polygonatum stewed with soft-shelled turtle, male dragon sea cucumber nourishing banquet, sustanche and deer tendon pot, sparrow egg ginseng and astragalus nourishing meal, lion lamb testicle strength boosting feast. I quickly stopped Xiangming. Could it be that there isn't a single normal person in this book? Arriving at the front hall, the scene was somewhat unsightly. The king of Hutu Kingdom was standing in the center of the hall, dancing gracefully. After the opening dance, Hutu Kingdom began to get down to business. Tomorrow is the time when Jiang Ting will be killed. As long as we make it past noon tomorrow, we'll all be free, then you two can be sweet together, and I can go back to enjoy my life. It's just that I've been here for quite some time, and the kingdom of Hutu has been urging me to return. Before I could speak, the king of Hutu shouted at the figure swaying back and forth outside the window, Prince Jing, at least try to hide your shadow when you're eavesdropping. I can see you. My relationship with the princess is pure and above board. I have nothing to hide. Your behavior, on the other hand, seems rather petty. Jiang Ting pushed open the window and looked at the posturing king of Hutu. King Tu, are you performing for my wife again? The king of Hutu felt no shame but rather took pride in it. So what, you can't do it, can you? My belly dance is something your lady really enjoys, Tilda. By the way, I forgot to ask, what is Prince Jing good at that could catch the princess's eye? This question stumped Jiang Ting. He didn't know how to dance at all. My lady, if I can't dance, will you stop liking me? I smiled helplessly. This guy was really taking it seriously. Just as I was about to console him, Jiang Ting interrupted. I saw his expression suddenly change, as if he had discovered some new continent, and he pointed at the Yongle Earl's heir. But I can wrestle. Do you want to see? I'll give you a demonstration. The Yongle Earl's heir trembled in fear. I stepped forward to pull him away, dragging him along as I prepared to go outside for a stroll, to clear my mind and also to divert some of the animosity. Just as we reached the door, I saw a servant rushing over to report, Your Highness, something terrible has happened. Miss Ruofu fell from the stage while practicing her dance and has fainted. I was just about to go and check on her when Jiang Ting impatiently pulled me away. Heading outside, he only had time to hurriedly give the order, go and fetch a doctor to properly examine Miss Ruofu. From noon until dusk, Jiang Ting held my hand with her left hand, carried a sugar figurine in her right, and wore a string of prayer beads around her neck, while slurping on the sugar figurine. She happily pointed to a stall not far away. Madam, there's grilled meat over there. Would you like to try some? I looked at Jiang Ting, who was laughing like a child, and said softly, Come on, let's go release the flower lanterns first. There was a vendor selling flower lanterns by the river, and they weren't expensive. Jiang Ting and I each took one and walked to the riverbank, gently placing the flower lanterns into the water. Jiang Ting asked curiously, Madam, what is your wish? I looked at him, smiling without a word. It's fine if you don't want to say anything. Madam, anyway, my wish is to be with you for all eternity. The flickering light cast an ambiguous expression on Jiang Ting's face. After a long while, he finally snapped back to reality and pulled me into a tight embrace. May the lady have all her wishes fulfilled. Thank you for your kind words. Madam, it's getting late. Shall we go home and rest? Very well. Deep in the night, we entwined like mandarin ducks, the brocade quilt churning in waves of red. The pleasure was undeniable, but the aftermath was no small matter. It was nearly noon before I managed to wake. I reached out to the side, only to find it empty. Instantly, I snapped awake and called out loudly, Jiang Ting. Xiangming heard my voice and pushed the door open. Your Highness, you're awake. Today, the king of Hutu Kingdom is returning home. The emperor has arranged a palace banquet to bid him farewell. And the prince has also been summoned to the palace. He's in the palace. I breathed a sigh of relief. Being in the palace is good, with so many guards around. Jiang Ting's life should be safe, right? As long as we make it past noon, everything will be settled. After all, Jiang Ting's death was caused by me. I won't go anywhere. I'll just stay quietly in the manor. That should definitely be fine. Xiangming, go to the kitchen and get some food sent over. I'm a bit hungry. Xiangming had just stepped out when Ruofu entered the room. Although I felt somewhat disgusted, I still asked with grace, I heard you were injured. Why have you come to my place instead of resting properly in your courtyard? Ruofu pursed her lips, not saying a word, just staring straight at me, looking at her strange expression. Alarm bells went off in my heart. Since you've already paid your respects, you should go back and rest. As I spoke, I stood up and called out toward the outside, Song Luo, come help me change clothes. Before I could finish speaking, a sharp pain shot through the back of my head, my vision went dark, and I fell to the ground unconscious. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself bound hand and foot, and the surroundings looked somewhat familiar. Isn't this the back hall where I met the king of Hutu at the palace banquet that day? As if noticing I had woken up, a cold voice rang out, awake now. I turned my head to look, and sure enough, as expected, it was Ruofu. Ruofu's face was somewhat contorted. I suppose you're wondering why I brought you here tied up. Then I'll let you die with clarity. I am not the Ruofu from before. I am Ruofu who has lived 2 lifetimes. In the previous life, after Jiang Ting died, you, this wretched woman, used your wealth and influence to stir up the court. I am one of the playthings you bought to curry favor with the emperor. Do you know how I died in my past life? Of course, I was played to death. But the one truly responsible is you. If you hadn't bought me and sent me into the palace, how could I have been toyed with until I died? After I died, I became a ghost wandering the palace day and night, and I actually discovered a secret passage at that moment. I thought, why couldn't I have found it earlier? I might have had a chance to survive, but heaven gave me a chance, and now, I'm here for revenge. I lowered my gaze. Who could deny it? If Jiang Ting died, how could I possibly live on peacefully and quietly? I apologize to you, and I'm willing to atone with my death. But this is a grudge between the two of us. Don't involve the innocent. Ruofu feigned madness. Innocent? You mean Jiang Ting, right? Don't worry. I'll send both of you on your way together. With that, she picked up a wooden bucket and splashed it around the palace, a pungent smell of tung oil rushing into her nostrils. Ruofu held the incense candles from the hall in her hand. Princess, I'm sending you on your way. If you feel uncomfortable, just shout loudly. That way, your man will rush in to accompany you on your journey. With a casual toss, the hall turned into a sea of flames, and Ruofu vanished without a trace. The raging flames mercilessly licked at everything that could burn, spreading menacingly toward me. Even though my throat was stinging from the smoke, I endured it without making a sound. As long as I remained silent, Jiang Ting wouldn't know I was here, and he wouldn't risk rushing into the fire. Then he wouldn't die. May the rest of your life be filled with peace and happiness. I forced myself to endure the discomfort in my mouth and nose, closed my eyes, and braced for death. The door of the rear hall was slammed open with a crash, and a familiar, urgent voice rang out, Madam, madam, where are you? Suddenly, I opened my eyes, my vision blurred with tears. You, how could you be here? Leave, get out quickly. But if Jiang Ting could obediently leave, then he wouldn't be Jiang Ting. He quickly ran to my side. Don't worry, my lady, I'm here to save you. I shook my head with a bitter smile. I'm already content just to see you one more time. You should leave quickly and live well for my sake. It's not that I'm deliberately seeking death, but I simply can't escape, because Ruofu has chained and locked me to the thickest pillar. Although the chain is only as thick as a finger, without the key, how can I possibly break free? Jiang Ting exerted all his strength and finally managed to snap the chain, but by then, he was already swaying unsteadily from exhaustion and the thick smoke choking his breath. I forced myself to stand up. Supporting Jiang Ting as we ran toward the exit, just as we were about to reach the main gate, the burning palace finally gave way, teetering on the verge of collapse. Without my noticing, a thick pillar came crashing toward us. Jiang Ting gave me a deep look, mustering all his strength to push me out of the sea of flames, but he himself vanished into the fire. I went mad, rushing back into the sea of flames. Jiang Ting, come out right now. Someone, stop the princess, at the emperor's command. I was held back by the guards. Are you trying to get yourself killed? The Prince of Jing risked his life to save you, and you're treating yourself so carelessly. I cried my heart out, How could I just stand by and watch Jiang Ting burn to death? Even if you rush in now, what good would it do? So many people can't do anything about it. What can a weak woman like you possibly do to save him? I bit down hard on the guard's hand. He cried out in pain and let go. And I seized the chance to dash into the sea of flames. Even if I die, I want to die with him. Just at this deeply moving moment, a golden, round object rolled out from the sea of flames, heading straight toward me. I instinctively stopped in my tracks and even stepped aside to make way for this mysterious rolling object. As it rolled up beside me, a familiar voice rang out, "Dog Emperor, are you even my own brother? I earned such great military achievements just to get a golden stage. And this is how you treat a meritorious subject. If your private treasury is empty, just say so. How dare you try to fool me with a hollow, water-filled stage?" The roller tilted and came to a stop. Jiang Ting crawled out from inside, cursing and grumbling. It turned out that when the pillar fell, it was propped up by the golden stage. However, the immense force caused the golden stage to deform and reveal its secret. A stream of clear water gushed out. Jiang Ting rolled in the water, slipped through the crack into the hollow golden stage, and charged out of the sea of fire as if riding on wind and fire wheels. When I saw Jiang Ting, covered in dust and grime, cursing the emperor, I collapsed to the ground as if all my strength had drained away, bursting into loud sobs. A hand reached out before my eyes. "Madam, I'm perfectly fine. Take a whiff, doesn't it smell like roasted meat? I never want to eat barbecue again." My heart ached as I looked at those hands, blistered and torn from the burns, yet Jiang Ting's eyes were fixed only on me. Soon, the guards arrived and extinguished the great fire. Although only an inconspicuous palace in the imperial city was destroyed, storytellers in tea houses all over the capital were already spinning tales with great enthusiasm. In the blink of an eye, Prince Jing rushed into the sea of flames to save his princess. Though the fire was merciless, human affection prevailed. In the face of life and death, the cold-faced princess publicly confessed her love to her devoted prince. "A red romance of life and death. If I still remember you in the next life, we shall be together even in death." Ifu didn't leave immediately at the time. Instead, she secretly watched me from the hidden passage. Originally, she was filled with hatred toward me, but when she saw that I would rather be burned alive than make a sound for Jiang Ting, she became even angrier. She had gone to such great lengths. A pair must die. So she went around to the outside of the hall and told Jiang Ting that I was trapped inside, urging him to rescue me. Watching Jiang Ting rush into the sea of flames, she was quite pleased. Watching me emerge from the sea of flames, she gritted her teeth in anger. Watching Jiang Ting roll out of the sea of flames again, she was furious and exasperated. The final cup of poisoned wine ended her second life. Actually, I don't blame her. After all, what happened in her past life was a vivid reality for her. I owe her. I originally wanted to tell her that I wouldn't become like that in this lifetime, then send her home to live a life of wealth and prosperity. The ruler of Hutu Kingdom perfectly completed this mission and returned to the modern era content and satisfied, ready to enjoy his wealth and glory. Before disbanding, under his lively and interactive singing and dancing, the two of us held a small meeting. After careful discussion between the two of us, we unanimously agreed that the power of the plot is immense, and it would be difficult for me alone to change anything. However, many hands make light work. Me, the king of Hutu, and Ruofu. Each of us is no easy opponent. In the end, with the three of us working together, the plot finally spiraled out of control, altering its course. Fortunately, this new trajectory is exactly what we all wanted. After the matter was settled, the emperor, unable to bear it any longer, summoned me into the palace. He was furious and full of grievances. "How do you discipline your husband? He spends his days idling around and doing nothing productive. These days, all the officials in the court have come to me to complain. He either bullies this one or mocks that one all day long. Where do you expect me to put my face?" Only then did I learn of Jiang Ting's remarkable achievements these past days. While I was transporting grain from the south to the north, he was busy beating up young children. While I was opening up new trade routes, he was busy kicking elderly ministers. While I was adjusting the business model, he was busy tormenting all the fine young men in the capital. The little grandson of the Marquis of Northern Pacification came to our estate with the Marquis as a guest. While eating the pastries I made, he looked at me with admiration. Fairy sister, when I grow up, can I marry you? As a result, Jiang Ting held a grudge against him. The very next day, she brought the little granddaughter of the Marquis of Peace and Tranquility to arrange a meeting with him. The little granddaughter of the Marquis of Peace and Tranquility, despite her young age, was skilled with a whip. Encouraged by Jiang Ting, she beat the little grandson of the Marquis of Northern Pacification until he cried out for his parents. He was at my house talking bad about you, saying you're ugly, fierce, and have no brains. The little granddaughter of the Marquis of Anning raised her eyebrows in anger, her almond-shaped eyes wide open. She's definitely going to marry you in the future and beat you up 8 times a day. The little grandson of the Marquis of Dingbei hung his head in dejection, whimpering and sniffling. In the imperial court, the Three-Dynasty veteran Prime Minister Nai was earnestly advising the emperor to prioritize the imperial lineage and expand the harem. Even Prince Jing should not remain devoted to just one woman, as it sets a poor example for the entire capital. Jiang Ting, the unruly scoundrel, stepped forward and pulled down the old prime minister's trousers, saying that since he was so flirtatious, he might as well let the entire capital admire his little bird. Prime Minister Nai was so humiliated and enraged that he wished he were dead. As a child, he was chased down the street by steamed buns, which even affected the marriage prospects of the Yongle Earl's heir, who finally managed to get a wife. He had already forgotten this nightmare. But Jiang Ting mercilessly brought it back to him. Come on, today I'll treat you to steamed buns. What, you won't eat them? Do you believe that steamed buns will fall from the sky? The ever-optimistic Yongle Marquis heir has once again retreated into his shell. After teasing everyone she could, Jiang Ting finally turned her attention to that unscrupulous merchant of an imperial brother. If he dared to deceive her with fakes, he had better be prepared to face her relentless retaliation. Instead of going directly to the emperor, Jiang Ting sought out the empress. The two sat in the warm pavilion, watching the heavy snow fall outside. A timely snow promises a good harvest. It's a favorable omen. It reminds me of an amusing incident that year, when you and the daughter of Minister Lin gathered around the stove to brew tea. Your Majesty repeatedly praised her. The young lady was elegant and dignified, and she composed excellent poetry. Instead, it was you, dancing with the sword, who was thoroughly mocked by the emperor. He said that, after all, you are the daughter of a military general, likely illiterate and somewhat uncouth. At that time, the emperor told me that in the future, I should marry a gentle, virtuous, and well-educated young lady. The empress smiled with gentle grace, and her words fully reflected her refined and educated nature. Regarding Jiang Ting's words, the empress indicated that she had received, understood, and accepted them without any offense. That evening, the emperor's dinner was transformed into jade melon and golden dendrobium soup, bitter wolfberry longevity stew, ginseng and bitter nourishing pot, and clear heart bitter tea, accompanied by the empress's clear and resonant reading voice. The emperor drank a bellyful of bitterness. Upon returning from the palace, I headed straight for the prince's mansion. Inside the mansion, Jiang Ting was clanging away, repairing the swing for me. All because I had casually complained that it creaked and groaned when swinging. I stepped forward to wipe the dust from his face, and he beamed with a sunny smile. Madam, how do you have time to come back at this hour? It's been so long since I've seen you during the day. I smiled gently and said, I've finished all the tasks at hand. I asked the emperor for some people and delegated the management authority to them. I'll handle the major decisions from now on, and they can take care of the smaller matters. Jiang Ting's eyes lit up. Does that mean you'll be able to spend time with me every day from now on? But then, as if remembering something, she furrowed her brows. You don't need to give up the things you enjoy just to please me. And if you ask the emperor for help, won't he take a huge bite out of this business? I gently rested my head on Jiang Ting's shoulder. Those who are capable should take on more responsibilities. I just want to do what I can for the people and for this country. But you are everything to me. Aren't you the one who most wants to roam the world with me, sword in hand? Now I sincerely extend this invitation to you. Jiang Ting, are you in? Jiang Ting's eyes sparkled like stars, grinning from ear to ear as he reached out to lift me up. then turned and dashed toward the house. I'm in. But before we roam the world, we need to get plenty of rest first. I curled the corner of my mouth, agreed. Add me on WeChat, MMY66618 for more popular long-form novel recommendations, and monthly subscriptions for short stories from platforms like Jihu, Jinri Tushiro, and Tomato, with proxy downloads and searches. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.